Hi, guys. We're going to talk about avoiding burnout and hopefully how to push back against um, the project deadlines without delaying the project. So let's get into it. Burnout's real, and you're not alone in this. This picture is not staged. Photo credit goes to my daughter. She took this picture of me in what I call my natural state. I wish I could say it's the only picture she's ever taken of me like this, and that my children won't spend millions of dollars on therapy later in life. But in order for that to happen, I need to make some changes. I'm part of an independent manufacturer's rep group. 5 of our lines have robust, high-functioning CET extensions, which is how I ended up in front of you today. Back in 2016, a friend of mine from college, we graduated in interior architecture at ASU 20 years ago, but she needed help with her company. She was an independent rep for one of her main manufacturers was pushing her to learn CET. She did not have the bandwidth to learn the tool at the time, so she handed me a Mac computer, which we all know is comical given the software requirements. But there I was with my Mac in hand, and she smiled, said please and thank you. These days, I spend 90% of my workday in CET staring blankly at the screen, open mouth, like the photo you just saw, space planning, specifying, designing, quoting, rendering, and value engineering, supporting dealer sales teams and designers in whatever capacity I can. This career is demanding and often underappreciated. That is why we're here talking about burnout. So hopefully as we go through and define the problem, there's something valuable you can find out of this presentation, if for no other reason, just to know you're not alone. I hope if I share a process you can implement or shed light on a resource that maybe you're underutilizing, such as independent rep groups like mine, it'll offer you some just breath to give you the things you're searching for the efficiency to communicate and push through. Let's define it. Employee burnout is a state. Employee burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion that results in prolonged stress and overwork in the workplace. It is a common phenomenon in today's fast-paced and demanding work environments, affecting individuals across various professions and industries. Like I said, we're not alone. I assume that we've all been there. And if you can't relate to this, maybe you should be teaching this session. We're going to click through some of the descriptions of burnout, the symptoms that ChatGPT graciously offered us. And if you've experienced any of these feelings brought on from work, just know that it's real. Exhaustion, cynicism and detachment, reduced job performance, emotional issues, physical symptoms. Wait, there's more. Decreased satisfaction, withdrawal from social activities, unrealistic expectations, interpersonal conflicts, loss of interest in hobbies. We really need to figure this out. I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable for a second while I explain why I'm passionate about this topic. I was at a national sales meeting last winter, and we were asked to write a goal for only ourselves to see. They said, fold it up, it's just for you. I'm certain they were hoping for something related to sales or performance or some way I was going to better myself, which would improve sales or performance. But instead I wrote this. I want to make a healthy meal for my family 2 times a week. We have already addressed that my children are neglected, but come on, it seems so easy. And I could not do it. I did not have the capacity. I could not find 1 hour in my day to prepare food. There's 21 meals in a 7-day week, and my goal was 2. I actually enjoy cooking and I'm pretty good at it, but I had nothing. I had nothing but guilt and resentment for a job I used to enjoy. I was burnout. A few weeks later, CET reached out to see if I could deliver a breakout session for the conference this year. I politely declined with a quip about our self-promoting society, along with a self-deprecating response on why other people would be more fit for this opportunity. They did not take no for an answer. So here we are. And when they asked, what do you think your session will be about? I quickly responded, burnout. There has to be a way to push back against unrealistic timelines and over-demanding salespeople and not delay projects, but rather accelerate efficiency. I was having that kind of a week. It just came out of my mouth. I had said it and they accepted the topic with enthusiasm. So here I am to say, I'm not an expert on this topic, but rather a victim of it. This is what I needed to talk about because this is what I needed to work through to decipher the stressors in my own work life. By saying it out loud, I had acknowledged that it was affecting me and I needed a change. Now, knowing a little bit more about me, I hope this provides insight that we can work on solutions together to benefit from. This is what we're hoping to cover today. Examples of stress triggers, ways to efficiently respond to sales requests, ideas to set up proactive systems, how CET can support efficient processes, and vocabulary to help you manage sales expectations. By going through this, I hope we can figure out a way to reduce burnout. Miscommunication. I would argue the #1 cause of stress in the workplace stems from poorly worded emails leading to miscommunication. And if you're like me, instead of requesting clarification, you sit there, read it several times, like you're having to translate it, thinking, I must have missed something. You read it again, feeling stupid. In actuality, the request contains too little information and/or the wrong information for you to be successful. Instead of banging our heads against the wall and wasting precious design time trying to figure out what they need on your own, hit reply and ask. We've all heard it said a million times, the only stupid question is the one you did not ask, and yet we still hesitate to ask. Do not guess, but instead ask smart questions. What makes a smart question? We've all heard someone talk about SMART goals before. The acronym SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. We may have even tried this with our goals before. It may have lasted a day or a week. Maybe some of you were more successful than I was. But we can use this same theory and ask appropriate questions to gather pertinent project information and increase efficiency in project turnarounds. In doing this, asking the smart questions, we can turn miscommunication into effective communication. The word communication, by definition, is an exchange of information. For this exchange to be successful, both parties need to be active participants. There's a sender who starts the communication. Effective communication should be expressed in a straightforward and unambiguous manner. Effective communication uses concise language to convey the message efficiently, to minimize the risk of misinterpretation. And the recipient. Effective communication is a two-way process. It requires active listening, where the recipient of the message pays full attention, seeks clarification when needed, and provides feedback to convey the message was accurately received. I'm going to share examples of real interactions showcasing miscommunication that have triggered my stress level. I will not incriminate anybody by divulging personal or project information, but these may seem ridiculous. They are 100% real emails I have received from very intelligent, successful people that are in our industry. The vague requests. Will you help with this project? I have attached the DWG. I always like what you do. Thanks. What are we supposed to do with this? I got nothing. But let's try to figure it out. Take a breath. It's important to remember everyone is busy. In sending this email, they are starting the communication with me. It's not good communication, but it's a start. And now the ball is in my court. I need to take the small amount of information I have, in this case, the drawing, view it, and curate an educated response instead of emotionally reacting to the lack of information I have received. Respond politely. My response might start with, I'm happy to help with this project, but I need more information in order to assist you efficiently. And then we can move into some smart questions to gain that information. Since you've looked over the drawing, you have something to reference when asking these questions. It might include, you've sent me the whole floor plan. Is the scope for the whole space, or do I need to focus my efforts on one particular area? What stage is this project in? Do you need inspiration images, typicals, or do you need budget numbers? Are they getting ready to order soon? Are you interested in a bill of materials? If I'm providing this, what grade do we need to provide upholstered items in? When do you need this request turned around? This is a big one that needs to always be asked. Sometimes people dump things on you to get them off their plate. They're going out of town or they have something coming up, big meeting. They just need to make sure that it's in someone else's hands. So you always need to ask, when do you need this request by? When is the client hoping to install is also a big question. This question will directly influence the products that we choose to specify. We don't want to focus on products that the client can't get. It doubles our work or even triples it sometimes because we have to come up with multiple options and turn around deliverables for all of those options. It's hot. Can you real quick? Real quick, will you render this love seat in the following multi-textile COM materials? We do not want them placed on the standard material locations, but instead, look at the sketch I've attached. Thanks. Here are the 3 options we need. I'm with the client now. The real quick request is sometimes hard for me to swallow because I feel like by saying real quick, they're not understanding the timing. It always comes through when you're busy, when you're working on another project. It feels like they're asking you to stop what you're doing and turn this around to them. But I need to remind myself, they don't know. They don't know what my workload is. They don't know I'm in meetings. They don't know I'm not at my CET computer. They don't know my daughter's homesick. They don't know unless we tell them. So what are our solutions? Let's take a breath. They also do not know the steps I need to take to achieve this ridiculous request. Downloading the materials, importing them into CET, scaling, rotating them correctly, laying them on the symbols, hoping that the meshes will accept them without spiraling out of control because I had to split them. They don't know. And now we get to make the choice. Do we jump through this hoop or do we set a boundary? This is an extreme example of a real quick request. Often they're not as custom, but still need to be addressed on a project by project basis. I've won huge projects and been awarded standards because I have jumped through this hoop, but I can't do it every time. So we need to respond politely. Part of our job as designers is to educate our team on how long this request will take and set your own boundary. They do not spend as much time in the software as we do, or even any for that matter, and need to be reminded that everything takes time. You might say, I appreciate this opportunity. This request is not something I can deliver to you in the next hour or even by the end of the day today. It will take some time. If you let me know when your next meeting is with the client, I will have these to you before then. And then we can ask smart questions. When I do turn this around to you, how would you like these images formatted? Is it helpful if they're individual JPEGs, or do you want them all on the same PDF? Perhaps all on one page for easy comparison. Just let me know. When responding politely with project-related questions, they see our intentions are to support this request and not dismiss them. Late to the party. Someone forwards you an email stream that has months of communication in it, but all that is addressed to you is, please see below, can you help with this? My internal response is heavily emotional. Help with what? Just tell me what you need. You want me to dig through 50+ emails to get caught up on a project? In full transparency, I'm not a quick reader, and pulling pertinent information out of a sea of words is not something my brain does. It can't function that way. And I don't have time for that. This feels like a wicked game of telephone. You know, the one we'd play around the table as kids, but instead of all giggling at the table, we're playing with somebody else's money. So how do we solve this problem? Take a breath. They do not know. In the salesperson's mind, you're their right-hand man, so you must have all the information, even though you've never seen the project before. Miscommunication is never solved by the lack of communication. Correspond the information you know or understand, if any, and request the information you need. Respond politely. If you could please outline the items you need my assistance with, I would be happy to aid in this inquiry. And then ask smart questions to gain the missing information. Do not guess, ask. You could spend hours digging through these emails to get caught up, but the salesperson has that information in front of their mind. They were just looking at the project before they sent it. It makes more sense if you just ask. The unrealistic request. Hey, can you design this space? The client wants several options for various work styles. I told them we would send layouts, renderings, and budget numbers by the end of the day. Thanks. This is what I call if you give a mouse a cookie syndrome. Do you guys all know the story, if you give a mouse a cookie? The story begins with a boy giving the mouse a cookie. However, this sets off a simple chain reaction of events. The mouse then asks for milk to go with the cookie, and from there he requests various other things, each one leading to another request. So you give sales a typical, and now they want to see multiple typicals, and all the typicals laid into this space. But only the typical is handed one direction, so you must build the opposite layout, and then they want both directions of all the typicals rendered. And why not show the renderings with multiple guest chair options? Oh, and can you make the renderings a little more beautiful? I'd like some accessories with those. This is where CET has failed us as designers. The sales teams sit in live design sessions and think the software is magic. As we bring in and drop pretty furniture around the space, they think after the session, all we have to do is hit print. They do not understand the time it takes to create deliverables after a session is over. To verify egress, to make sure the specification is complete with supports, accurate, the finishes are in, there's power, and then the renderings on their own take time. I will say CET is a wonderful tool, and I cannot imagine doing my job without it, but it is a tool. Someone has to put the time in to make that tool work. So let's take a breath, look over the request, and try to respond, not react. When we respond politely, we can educate them on our current capacity and what can be done in their requested time frame. Let them know you're happy to share images or typicals to showcase various work styles. Or better yet, send them the links. They can choose their own typicals and images, online specification tools, and things they can do outside of CET. They can pull information on their own. And if the salesperson still wants to offer their client the world, set clear boundaries on how this can be achieved. By asking the right questions, it is not only efficient and an efficient way to get information needed and to complete the request, it can often buy us time while the sales team collects the answers. The inability to disconnect. I hear my email push a new message. 10 minutes later, a text comes through. 5 minutes after that, the phone rings. Did I mention it's 6 p.m. on a Friday? Oh, take a breath. Respond on Monday. It's just furniture. And ask smart questions when you choose to respond. I'm gonna be honest, this type of communication is a direct relation and a reaction to how I have worked in the past. I'm a night owl. I get my best work done between 10 p.m. and 12 a.m. Everyone is in bed. I do not need to worry about pickups or drop-offs, dinner or practice. It's my time to focus. I knock out projects, send emails, respond to RFPs, and get stuff done. But people grew to expect it. I was training them on how I wanted to be treated. They would send me requests at 6:30, 7 p.m. and expect them waiting in their inbox the next morning. They started to get upset when it wasn't there. But it is not sustainable to work until midnight and be up at 5:30 every day. But also on the other end, we need to be respectful of other people's stress level. If they get an email from us at 9 p.m., they look at it before bed, is that going to affect their sleep? Will they worry about responding swiftly, thinking that it must be critical if I sent it so late? This is when it's important to set up different systems in our inboxes. We can delay responses even if we choose to work late. The email doesn't need to be sent out until the next morning. And by doing this, we're lowering the unrealistic expectations and setting boundaries. Sometimes I'd be working on an RFP with a tight deadline, and I could feel my blood pressure rising with every continuous ding. I would think someone needs something. I need to answer that. Might be urgent. When will I have time to get to this? Until one magical day, I muted all my devices. Of course, I cannot ignore incoming emails forever, but we also do not have to respond right when the correspondence is received. We can set aside time to respond. If I were to answer every email when it was received, I would never have time to do my actual work, to answer the RFPs or design. Instead, I've set up a system. My system might not look like yours, but I set 20 minutes aside 3 times a day to make sure thoroughly go through emails, reflag the important correspondence, and get back to work. By utilizing the color flagging system, we can create our own internal list or queue and set the urgency. I have my red flags are things that I still need to get to. My green flags, I'm waiting on something from somebody else. And my orange flags are the ones I am currently working on. And I know this system, and I know this system won't work for everybody, but it works for me. You can also archive emails into folders. I know I have a coworker that is really good at this. Her inbox is always at 0, and I'm always envious. It's beautiful to look at. Again, it doesn't work for me, but your system won't look like anybody else's. It just needs to be a system that works for you so that you'll use it. I had a manager tell me a few years ago, do not open an email unless you have time to answer it fully when you open it. That way it doesn't get lost in your inbox. I sat on this advice for a long time, trying to figure out how that could ever be possible. One morning I woke up realizing it is in fact impossible because he and I have wildly different jobs. Although we both represent manufacturers, he is answering important questions on discounting and warranties. I am space planning multi-level hospitals and corporate suites. It will never get done before I need to answer the next email. His system did not work for me, but it did encourage me to create my own system. So remember, everyone works differently, and your system will not look like anyone else's. Okay. We all know these people. They're probably not the best team, but collaboration should not look like this. We all deserve better. To be a team player that people want to work with again, and also demand that from your teammates. Because without our team, we will definitely be burnt out. So who's on your team? Make sure you have a right-hand man, someone you can trust. They may not do things exactly the way you would, but it will get done, and you can count on them. My husband and I were driving somewhere this summer. We have been married for over 18 years, so naturally, I was telling him where he needed to turn. He looked at me with frustration and said, "We will get there. I might take a different turn or use the center lane to travel, but we will still get there." It did take us probably an extra 15 minutes, and I'm pretty sure I may have heard him mumble under his breath that I was right. But he was right too, because we did in fact get there. This is the trust we need to put in our teammates that they will get the project to the finish line. What strategies can we set up and tactics to improve our team building? If we establish open and transparent communication, you guys may have realized right now, or probably well before this, communication is the key element of this presentation. Encourage active listening and exchange of ideas and feedback. Ensure team members understand their individual and collective roles in achieving these goals. Clearly define roles and responsibilities for each team member. Ensure that roles are aligned with the individual's strengths and expertise. Encourage the use of time management techniques and tools to prioritize tasks and meet deadlines. Be open to adapting strategies and plans as circumstances always change. Schedule regular team meetings to review progress, share updates, and align on goals. Encourage team members to document their own work and share knowledge with their colleagues. Create a centralized knowledge base for easy access information. I've been doing this job since 2016. This is the first summer that I have vacationed without my CET computer. Our company did not have the system set up properly to cover each other when one of us was out on vacation or needed a break. We did not have a cloud drive to locate the projects or a reference number or a standard in naming the projects. This is a process we needed to create so that we could take time off. What other team tactics should be put in place to improve productivity? If you've done something more than 3 times, there should be a system, a form, a standard setup, a Dropbox, a reference sheet, something to get you to the finish quicker on that particular task. Some templates might include project request forms, client questionnaires, RFP and bid response templates, product standards, templates for those, purchase orders, installation drawing templates. These are all things that we have to do over and over again. I'm going to tell a real quick story before we get into the efficiencies in CET. I was working on a large hospital project with a dealership. One of the first questions I asked the salesperson was, what are your tagging standards? Transfer this to your team, everything is visible, and where they think it should be. Her response was, oh, I'm not going to bring an internal designer onto this project, so just tag them wherever you usually do or however you want. Cut to 4 months later. When the dealership is transferring the SIF into core, I get a text. Can you jump on a call? I was on a call with 5 people from the dealership while they discussed tag alias visibility. And guess what? None of them agreed. If your dealership does not have a standard for things like this, or if everyone is not educated on that standard, you need to set the standard, share the standard with everyone, and continue the standard. Repeat this process for the next project and the next project until everyone has matching visibility settings and knows exactly where to find the information they're looking for. We're here at this CET experience. I'm only going to spend about 5 minutes discussing CET efficiencies. I feel like you guys have gotten enough of that in the last couple days, but let's go through this real quick. Setting defaults. Have you mastered all your defaults? I don't mean, they're good enough. I mean, if there is something you consistently change manually, other than the floor finish, check your software defaults and change them to your preferred settings. Set the text, set the dimension arrows, the angle tolerance, the calculations, any defaults you can to make your life easier, set it so that you can do your best work. Blocks. Did anyone go to the block session? There is no reason to create repetitive layouts without utilizing blocks. Blocks are magical. You only have to change the tack board setting in one office, and just like that, they're all changed. Blocks are an amazing standardization tool that should be utilized. Templates. Set them up, share them with your team, get on the same page, or even better, ask a trusted team member if they will share their template with you. Schemes. You can also share these. I will say this is one that I have not utilized enough, but I know some extensions live or die by schemes. So if yours is one of those, make sure you have them set and save the settings that you like. Seed drawings. Before templates was released, I had a simple architectural seed drawing I still use to this day. It's silly, but it just has walls, 1, maybe 2, a door, well, several door types, windows at different elevations, and the flooring is changed. So when I open that drawing, I never have to turn on my baseboards and color my walls and get rid of the ugly, dull gray floor. It's just all there waiting for me. It's a simple thing that makes my life just a few seconds, gives me a few seconds back. Fave files. I feel like this one goes back to setting up systems. If you have drawn the same layout more than 3 times, you've done too much work. Block it and save it. But here's the biggest trick. You need to name this file robustly with a product name or names, the type of layout, and also the size of the layout. Whatever information you need so that when you're going to pull that type of layout or drawing in, you know where to find it. It does not do any good to save fave files with short project acronyms if you cannot find them and use them in the future. Also, share your favorites with your team. Set up a folder where everyone can drop their favorite files in, but tell them up front, if they drop files in that are not named with whatever standard you've created, they will need to rename them or you will be deleting them from the folder. Pay-per-view, that's a gimme. Just make sure you have your paper template set up, easy to pull in. And also utilize the data fields such as date and stuff when you're doing paper space, so you don't have to change that. There's no reason to be typing that simple information over and over again. The data field is a great tool that CET offers us. Typicals. I talked about this briefly earlier, but typicals and idea starters are great. Did you guys know that StyleX has a whole tab with the hybrid flexible idea starters in them? You can drag and pull them in. They're ready for you to utilize. And OFS offers their full typicals library in their tab under typical warehouse, straight from CET. You don't even have to leave the program. But while we're talking about typicals, I'm going to jump back to fave files. The problem I found with Office typicals is that they are single-handed. You find a typical that you want, but inevitably it's going to be drawn the wrong direction. You need a right return and it has a left. This is the perfect time to create a fave file. You draw the opposite layout, save them both together as the fave file. So the next time you go to open that typical, you find it in your faves now, but it has both directions. Even with all the symptoms, strategies, and efficiencies we create and can create, I'm going to circle back to communication. Communication is still the most important tool that we have to combat burnout in the workplace. Concise communication comes from discussing the facts. Using words that are universally understood and cannot be debated allows us to set boundaries. If I were to tell Allie, I don't have time to work on your client's project because I'm working on Shannon's project, that would make me vulnerable to debate and emotion. She might respond, my project's bigger and more important. Shannon's project can wait. My client has a tighter deadline. We need to get this installed in 2 months. So now your head is on a swivel while they posture over each other. But this could all be avoided if instead of using emotional language, we talk facts. Capacity. No one knows your personal capacity but you, but they do know that capacity means the maximum amount something can hold. So if you are at capacity, they will have to wait. Q. This word shares 2 important things with the person you're communicating to. 1, you've received their request. And 2, you have a system of operations that will lead to them receiving the request. Allocate. When we're at capacity, it's time to lean on our team. Time to allocate and distribute the workload. the amount of work or tasks that need to be completed by an individual, team, organization, or system within the specific period of time. Notice this is not a me-I situation. This is teamwork. It encompasses all the activities, responsibilities, projects, and assignments that everyone is expected to handle. Service. This word shows an understanding that we know we are taking care of clients and their needs. So if I were to respond instead of emotionally like I did before, Allie, I have received your request. It is in my queue. My current workload has me at capacity today. I will be able to get started on this Wednesday afternoon. I will reach out with any questions at that time so that you can turn this around and offer your client the service they deserve. By phrasing my response with acknowledgement, a timeline, and showing empathy that I understand its importance, I have taken control and left emotions at the door. This is a quick communication chart I thought was good to remind us that everybody has a head voice. The blue text shows our inner monologue of how we might want to respond. The red marks maybe a passive-aggressive approach that could lead to miscommunication. And the green check mark shows clear, concise communication. So my boy Paul's back. He gets 2 cameos in this presentation. He might be on my list. I'm old. I don't actually use the terminology no cap in conversation, especially not business transactions, but I do have teenage sons, so I am aware of the translation. No cap is meant to convey authenticity and truth. The best communication comes from honest, sincere interactions. We cannot fully address burnout if we do not talk about self-care. Self-care is trending, as it should be. We should always take care of ourselves. There's information out there everywhere. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but please take care of yourself. Be honest with yourself, with your team. When you're reaching your limit, they would rather have you take a day or two to recenter than walk away completely from burnout. They need you. Creating a healthy work-life balance and combating burnout is an ongoing process that requires self-awareness, adaptability, and a commitment to yourself. I constantly tell my kids, and my husband for that matter, everything in this world requires maintenance. Our job, our home, our car, our physical health, our relationships, our mental health, everything. There's nothing you can walk away from, nothing you can set and forget. This rings true in every aspect of our lives. So be sure to maintain yourself. Counteracting work-related burnout requires a combination of individual strategies, workplace initiatives, and supportive environments. Make sure that you're reaching out to everyone who is there to support you, including independent reps. If the company you represent has an extension in CET, they have resources to support you. Most rep groups are now required to have a CET user on staff, and we have 3. So save their contact information and use it. You're required to be an expert of your dealership's major manufacturer extension, not ours. And the rep is the expert. We will be your right hand for our manufacturers. Email us, text us, call us, just not at 6 p.m. on Friday unless you want to get a drink. And we'll be there to help, to serve, and to offer support however we can. My son asked me a few years ago why my job is important. I had to think about it for a while. After all, it's just furniture. My answer was, my job is important because people are waiting on me. They're counting on me to get them information they need so that they can finish their task and accomplish their own job. We are all part of a system, and the more we communicate and help one another, the easier and honestly, the more fun this job is. Thank you so much for your time today.